My name is John Foy, and my topic is expressive character animation. My goal with this topic is to gain a better understanding of character animation, as well as how to properly utilize Adobe Animate, which is the program I'll be using to complete my trials. For this topic, I will undertake 3 trials. The first trial will be about finding effective ways to lip sync in Adobe Animate. The second will be about finding ways of creating dynamic and expressive movement in Adobe Animate. And my final trial will be combining the first 2 trials and see if my 2 chosen methods work together to create a fast and visually appealing piece of animation. For my first trial, I set about finding a more effective way to lip sync instead of drawing each mouth shape frame by frame as I did previously. There were 2 methods from which I could see. The first is using shape tweens to mimic mouth shapes and to let the program create the in-betweens, but this method looked really rough and not at all appealing. So I watched a few tutorials like How to Animate Mouths by Jazza, which taught me a method where you use symbols containing a keyframe for each mouth pose, then calling upon whatever frame is needed, creating the illusion of hand-drawn frame-by-frame lip sync, while drastically cutting down on the time spent. I started by creating a quick test to practice using this technique I had been shown. I drew a really rough body and put a mouth on it, and using the technique I was shown, I synced the lips to the audio.
Stop! You violated the law. Pay the court a fine or serve your sentence. Your stolen goods are now forfeit.
This was really rough, and I ran into some issues, like some of the mouth poses not being properly aligned, which caused the mouth to sometimes jump about, breaking the illusion. I went about fixing my mistakes when I made a more refined animation, where I not only used the symbol method for the lip sync, but also to create switchable body poses in order to make the animation less static. I think this attempt I got the lip sync to work really well, and the body graphic could be used for recurring poses even if I decided to animate the body frame by frame.
Time to cash out.
Will you get it over with?
Maybe cons kill people without looking them in the face. But I ain't a fink. Dig? You've made your last delivery, kid. Sorry you got twisted up in this scene. From where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-carat run of bad luck. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
After some discussion, I was advised that the audio track used for my first trial was too long. I made sure to use smaller clips when moving forward, started with my second trial. For my second trial, I was trying to figure out ways of creating expressive movement using Adobe Animate. I saw 2 main ways I could try to do this. One was creating a 2D character rig using graphic symbols, the other was doing it all frame by frame, and after trying with the rig and not getting the kind of movement I was hoping for, I decided to animate using frame by frame. Using frame by frame animation, I was easily able to use the principles of animation to create dynamic and expressive movement. The voice clip I chose went through multiple emotions, so I was able to express different movements in one short clip. Overall, I think some of the things, like the use of smear frames to convey fast movement, as well as the use of follow-through to give movement some weight, worked really well. However, although I tried to implement some anticipation, I used too little in this trial, making a lot of the movements less impactful as a result. What I learned from this trial is that I need to properly utilise all of the animation principles in order to create effective expressive movement.
Oh boy! I'm number 11! Whoopee! Number 11!
This trial took a lot longer than is ideal, so I will definitely try and find a way to combine both frame by frame and symbols to make animation as fluid as possible, while still saving time where I can. For my third trial, I took what I'd learned from the previous 2 and set out to combine them both. This time I started with a planning out phase where I roughly sketched head and body performing actions I needed. This helped a lot in making sure the animation flowed smoothly and in the way I intended to before focusing on the detail. After I had everything roughed out, I created the head as a symbol so that size would always stay consistent and wouldn't take away from the animation while moving about. After positioning the head based on my rough animatic, I started to animate the mouth on top of the head, repositioning the mouth to fit the movement. I then drew roughly the same body positions as my animatic, making sure to include the principles of animation that I'd planned out. I did multiple attempts at creating the smear frames for the arm but was unhappy with how they looked, so I eventually added more frames, and this seemed to make it look much more appealing and fluid. I then added some eyes and created several brow poses within a symbol, so that I could animate the eyes along with the mouth and make it more expressive. I then tried to put something on top of the head in order to make it look more like the character the voice line came from. I started with a hat, but I didn't like how it looked, so I changed it to hair. Animating the hair could have been done better, as I just created the hair as a symbol, then moved it on top of the character for every frame he moved. This also meant I had to create different poses based on where the character moved.
Dutch!
John?
You left me! You left me to die!
In the end, I think it looks great, but I feel like it isn't the most effective way to create this effect. In conclusion, I learned a lot from doing these trials. Not only have I learned to better use the program I'll be using for my final project, but I also learned how to be a better animator in general. My previous lip sync and dynamic movement attempts didn't turn out too well, but after these trials I feel I can finally create a piece of animation I can be proud of. I had a lot of fun while working on these trials, and although there are still some things I need to learn and improve upon, I think properly utilising what I learned in these trials will benefit my future work greatly. Thank you for listening.